Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Odor Outcry, that podcast where we get hepatitis from roadside burgers, because this week we watched Countryside.
Written by Chris Chibnall.
Directed by Andy Goddard.
And aired on November 19th, 2006. You know, they should really make an Osmosis Jones sequel now. It would be perfect.
So last week, I was like, man, Countryside seems from the title alone like it's going to be really interesting. And it was. I don't know where I was going with this. I just feel like I needed a way to start this episode because normally there is an immediately presented like method to start the episode, something to discuss that we can start bang off with. This I feel like there wasn't one when we went into this because we spent so long gallivanting around our weeks before we even started recording this week. We really fell into the trap of if we say it off recording, we won't say it on recording this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just looking at what time it is right now, I just realized that we've been sitting here for like an hour without actually having done anything. Or having barely done anything, but hey, whatever. That's not what people are here to listen to. They're here to listen to us discuss this tradition.
I mean, okay, you say that, but we've had multiple guests on the show tell us that the best part of Trust Your Doctor is the random tangents that we go on.
Well, see, they don't know that once every 10 years we butcher a bunch of people and eat their flesh. And if they knew that, then they wouldn't say that the tangents are the best part, because that would clearly then be the best part. We actually haven't initiated that ritual yet because we haven't been doing this for 10 years.
This is a this is a joke for anyone unclear.
No, it's not. It's not a joke.
This is a joke. This is a joke. No reason to panic. This is a joke. Just put the phone down. No need to call 911. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see. Nothing to see here.
Right, nothing to see. Just how there was nothing to see in that fridge full of human body parts that Toshi and Yanto opened in the episode.
At least we get more wild card Owen this week. You never know what he's going to do next, and that too comes into play this week.
Yeah, this was the most like wild ride episode of any Torchwood episode so far. Gotta say.
Honestly, I would say this is like in the entire Doctor Who kind of canon that we've watched / listened to / read, I would say this is probably in the top like 3 scariest or most unsettling, I should say, episodes or things that we've watched, in my opinion.
I would say so too. Yeah, for sure. Especially...
and part of that is just...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say part of that is just like how well this builds the suspense and the like atmosphere until the reveal, and then at the end, just the reveal, and when Ewan tells Gwen like why they did it, just like the whole thing is so well done, in my opinion.
Yeah, so let's get there. Let's dive in.
Yeah, because I couldn't really find any production information except for my Amazon X-Ray fun fact of the week. Wow, I really butchered that, but that's a little bit later.
Huh.
Yeah, last week we were trying to, or I was wondering if I could use the like Amazon Studios fanfare as like a little musical cue for that segment, and I looked it up, and that musical fanfare is literally just like an orchestra tuning. Like it's just... I was like, wow. Wow. Anyway, yeah, let's just get right into the plot, shall we?
Yeah. So this starts with a woman driving on a dark country road. She's talking on the phone and driving a bit erratically, so you think she's going to crash the car, but then something even worse happens.
She's on her phone while she's driving. That's the even worse thing, right? She's just flagrantly breaking the law.
Exactly. And that's the worst that happens in this episode.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing to see here.
Not the...
Torchwood comes in, they arrest her. They're like, you can't talk on your phone while you drive. She reveals that she only did it because she liked it and was fun to do.
Oh my god.
And they lock her up next to the Weevils.
Jesus.
Honestly, the most interesting part of the scene, so she sees like a body in the street and she stops and she gets out of the car. And the most kind of like, wait, what moment right now is that she gets out of her car and she pulls out like a baseball bat.
Yeah, I didn't know.
And I was like, what?
I didn't know that people in the UK knew what baseball was. Yeah, like, why is this not, like a cricket bat or cricket thing, whatever it's called?
My surprise wasn't at the fact that it was a baseball bat. My surprise is more that she had a bat in her car to begin with at all. But you make a good point, actually.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that was a joke. I mean, I know people know what baseball is, like, worldwide and stuff. But, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's like their version of the complimentary Desert Eagle. If you're going to go live in the countryside, they give you they hand you the deed to your house, and then they hand you a baseball bat, and they go, okay, keep this on you at all times.
Yeah, if there's anything that, like, watching these shows has convinced me of, it's that, like, the Welsh/Western English countryside is just the worst place in the world. Like, this episode, the entirety of Children of the Stones. Yeah.
The Prisoner, Port Marion.
Yeah, I guess. Although that's. I
mean, it's not like set in Port Marion, but we can pretend.
Yeah, true.
My second note is oh shoot, his head turned into a soccer ball. The horror.
Yeah, it's done in such a comedic way because it's like that cliche of like, kid needs to sneak out of house at night, so like puts a sweater on the bed with a soccer ball in it type thing.
And this lady kind of kicks it and she's like, huh, weird. But she's like, well, whatever. And as she's kind of turning to go to her car, there's a kind of in the background we see like a shadowy figure move across the screen/landscape.
Yeah, Insidious style, just kind of in the background.
And you're like, oh, what's that? And she kind of gets attacked and starts screaming, and then we get the title credits.
Right. And apparently there's been 17 similar murders in the area because Torchwood is now on the case. They're driving out to this middle of nowhere place. Owen's complaining about how much the countryside sucks.
Yeah, except they don't know if they're necessarily murders, because I think when they pull up, they mention that it's just 17 people have disappeared.
Right.
And no bodies have been found. And I guess this is not a job for some sort of nationwide national intelligence agency. This is a job for Torchwood, who works with alien technology and alien invasions.
Yeah, maybe it's a case of like police have investigated and not really come up with anything, and Torchwood / potentially just Jack now think that something supernatural is going down, which it's not.
Yeah, that's kind of the most unsettling thing about the episode, and I want to talk about that at the
Yeah.
end.
It also makes sense that nothing has been uncovered when you learn that, like, the local cops are in on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, although when it's revealed the local cops don't really know who Torchwood is, I kind of have to wonder, like, who called in Torchwood? Who reported these people missing?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe Torchwood just... Well, Torchwood does have their own surveillance systems, so, you know.
It's like Prism. Prism was that leaked. The reveal of the program was the leak that it was like this surveillance system that the NSA maintained. But anyway, I think it was called Prism. Anyway, they're at this like roadside burger stand, and my next note is that even when they're out of the office, they still make Ianto go get the food because they're all standing there, but Ianto's the one like ordering the food, and then he carries like all their orders the 5 feet to the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even after they brutally murdered Ianto's like one true love, they still make him do all the menial labor.
Yep. And so they're about to dig into these burgers, and Toshi's like, nah, not for me. One of my friends got hepatitis from eating one of these burgers from one of these middle-of-nowhere burger stands. Everyone else is just like, thanks. Frickin' thanks for that, Toshi.
In hindsight, I wonder if that line is kind of like implying something even more insidious, that this is like a Sweeney Todd kind of thing.
What, where they like give people hepatitis on purpose so they can like check into local hospitals and then harvest their like body parts?
No. Like in Sweeney Todd, when Mrs. Lovett makes the pies out of the human meat, that these hamburgers are made of the humans, and that's why it transmits like the hepatitis.
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, wow. That's an unsettling thought. Ooh.
I mean, that has to be what it is, right? Like, because even, I just kind of brushed it off, but even in that moment, I was like, wait, how can eating a burger give you hepatitis? Like, how can eating cow meat / beef, there's a word for that.
Yeah, but
like, how can that give you hepatitis? But yeah, I guess it's human meat.
Unless like beef can transmit hepatitis.
I don't know. Let's turn to our trusty friend Google. Our trusty. Never mind. All right. Can beef?
Oh yeah, apparently hepatitis E can be transmitted via uncooked meat, because hepatitis E can infect mammals. Interesting. I didn't even know hepatitis went up to E. Honestly.
Yeah. Speaking of like things infecting mammals, this is totally unrelated, but I saw this thing online the other day that was like, technically any mammal can get rabies, so imagine a blue whale with rabies.
Oh no. So they decide to camp on the side of the road. After throwing away their one-bite hamburgers, they decide they're going to camp on the side of the road. And Jack kind of makes a good point that becomes like even more kind of prescient given later events. He's like, do you really want to stay in like an inn in a weird local town where like 17 people have gone missing, where you don't know anyone in the town? Like, really? And Owen's like, all right, I guess. Because Owen is moaning and complaining about having to set up the campsite.
Right. They start playing this really passive-aggressive game about who the last person they kissed was.
I don't know if it's a game so much as like probing your coworkers, like deepest, darkest secrets. Pro tips: don't date your coworkers.
Yeah, and Gwen isn't helping because she's just like, so who's the last person you kissed? Mine was Reese, my like longtime boyfriend.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Gwen is the only person in a long-term relationship in the show besides Reese, obviously. But come on, does it same relationship?
Yeah,
Like she is not revealing any personal, private information that no one like wouldn't have been able to guess, really.
right. And her saying
So
this
really,
is
she's just probing everyone else.
yeah, she has nothing to lose and everything to gain here, essentially.
Or so she thinks. So she thinks.
Right? Because
So,
yeah, go. You can explain it.
well, I was just going to start by saying Toshi very sadly reveals the last person she kissed was Owen, like 6 months ago at Christmas.
Right.
And Owen is like, wait, really? You haven't like kissed anyone since then? And she's like, no.
Yeah. And then Owen reveals the last person he kissed was Gwen.
In Cyberwoman.
Right. This poses like an interesting thought, I think, for the continuity, because Cyberwoman was inserted into its slot. It was actually supposed to come later on in the season. So you have to wonder whether that the kiss that took place in Cyberwoman was initially part of whatever was supposed to be there. I had to do some rewrites and some editing and insert that into Cyberwoman, which is maybe why it feels a little out of place or like, wait, what? What the heck is going on type thing in Cyberwoman.
Yeah, that would explain why it like kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere in Cyberwoman, and also why like Owen's explanation for it is so ham-fisted that it's just like, oh, I thought I was gonna die. And also like Gwen's kind of like it was complicated brush off in this episode. We kind of make a lot more sense if that kiss had taken place in a different context, because it's not really that complicated to say, Owen kissed me because he thought he was gonna die. Like,
right.
And that really, too, would, like, pretty much shut down any criticism Toshi or Jack or them would have, because they know she's in a committed relationship. So they're all kind of like, I mean, apparently, I guess, like, murder is okay, but cheating is, like, that's crossing the line for the Torchwood team.
Yeah.
And so there's, like, not immediately clear, why Gwen... It's not immediately clear why Gwen doesn't just say, like, oh, Owen thought he was going to die. We both thought we were going to die. It was like, let's not die without kissing or something like that. Whereas if it was some other context in some other episode that was supposed to be there, like maybe there was some other much actually more complicated kind of reason.
Right.
Although maybe not,
Yeah, just interesting to think about.
Anyway, Jack reveals the last person he kissed was an alien, and everyone's like, no way. And he's like, yes. Apparently, this is interesting because I hadn't thought about it, but apparently everyone on the team kind of just accepts offhand that Jack has had, like, contact with alien species beyond the purview of Torchwood. So I kind of have to wonder, like, how he, like, introduced himself to them. He's just like, hey, I'm Jack, and I'm not an alien, but I've met aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't really know how any of these people joined Torchwood, except Yanto, kind of, and Gwen, obviously. So I guess we really just don't know about Owen and Toshi.
I kind of spoiled for myself mildly that there is an episode later on that, like, is constructed mostly through the storytelling conceit of flashbacks to explain how everybody joined Torchwood. Thanks, TARDIS Wiki. I knew there was a reason I was using Wikipedia and not the TARDIS Wiki when doing things for the show. And it's because the TARDIS Wiki just, like, casually drops spoilers, like, all over the place. And Wikipedia doesn't do that.
Yeah, because as out there and, like, as different a species from, your average everyday person that Wikipedia editors are, TARDIS wiki editors are even further away from the norm.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, speaking of spoilers, I actually spoiled a significant amount of this show just looking up those Christian takes on Torchwood that I did for last week's show notes.
Yeah, that actually sucks, honestly. That actually sucks.
But it was all worth it knowing now that Christians are like not okay with, or at least the Christians who are writing these articles are not okay with many aspects of Torchwood.
Yeah, I wonder how they feel about the cannibalism.
Yeah, it was the cannibalism, the extramarital affairs. Yeah,
oh man, I've got so many things for Gwen in the 7 Deadly Sins of Gwen this week. So they go out into the also Eon 2 reveals the last person he kissed was Lisa, and everyone is like, ooh, this got awkward. Yeah. This got super awkward. Sorry for killing your girlfriend again, Ianto.
Yeah.
So they go into the woods. Gwen and Owen go into the woods to get firewood. I think it was.
Yeah, there's like a major WTF Owen moment in this that happens right now. Maybe that should be a segment, like, what's the biggest Owen WTF moment in the episode?
Yeah, honestly, why not? Why not?
Well, for this one, I guess if we're inaugurating this segment, it's definitely this, because he just, like, confronts Gwen. He's like, that kiss should turn into something more. You and me could be great together, Gwen. Great.
And they're like, their lips are touching, but they're not kissing. Right. They're like really, really close.
Right. Gwen's looking like she's pretty into it.
Yeah, she looks... Yeah.
But then she sees something out of the corner of her eye and realizes that they're being watched, so they break and they corner whatever this thing is. /not, because...
Yeah, they miss it.
Because what they actually find is a dead body that's been totally, like, skinned. And it's covered with maggots.
Yep. Real pleasant. Yum. Yay. Whoopee.
They all...
Then...
Well, they all come together to investigate, but I'm pretty sure the only conclusion they come to is that, like, they need to do some more investigating to figure out what the heck this is, and that it's not the Weevils, because someone suggests that it might be the Weevils, and I think Jack says, nah, their activity doesn't extend this far, or something like that.
They also don't skin their victims.
Right.
I think the conclusion they draw is because they come there specifically hoping to find the most recent woman who goes missing, the one we saw at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But they conclude that this body is a male and therefore not this woman. A couple things before we get too far away from them. There's a Millennium Center reference a little earlier when Toshi's explaining she kissed Owen. She kissed him in front of the Millennium Center.
Oh man, totally missed that.
There seems to be some sort of like Toshi might have a little bit of a crush on Owen because she makes this joke when Owen's setting up a tent and she goes like, need a hand getting it up, Owen? And he's like,
oh wow,
if I did, I wouldn't need it from you. And then like Toshi looks really dejected. She looks like really hurt by that actually. Anyway, it's time for the Amazon X-Ray Fact of the Week. Fun Fact of the Week. And this one's pretty hilarious. So, this was filmed, I think, on location.
It was all a set. Those wide sweeping shots of the countryside were all set.
It could have been. Like, the most shocking thing, I watched 2001 A Space Odyssey last night. The most shocking thing I learned about that movie was, so the movie opens with a bunch of, like, wildlife, and you think it's shot in Africa because there's, like, a cheetah and these monkeys, and you think it's shot in Africa. But then, because I watched it on TCM, Brad Bird just goes, "Oh yeah, that wasn't shot on Africa. That was all shot on a set with front projected front projected footage over like a set." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you think it's shot in Africa? It was a set." So I mean, it could have been. My point is, this could have been a set.
Yeah, I thought they actually filmed that movie in space. What a disappointment.
Well, I do seem to remember learning that movie, like, so accurately captured, like, weightlessness and, like, space that NASA contacted Kubrick and was like, "Have you been digging into our secret documents?"
Oh.
Anyway, so the fun fact is that apparently the cast believed that the building they were staying in during filming was haunted. And so one of the nights, Eva Miles was, like, so spooked that she went to go ask John Barrowman if she could, like, share his room for the night. And so she went and she knocked on his door, and he opened the door, and apparently he opened the door in freshly ironed Transformers pajamas.
Nice. Yeah, what's a good
I
night's...
really, really like this image of John Barrowman wearing, like, Transformers pajamas.
Yeah, sounds reasonable to me. What's a good night's sleep without Starscream and Megatron gracing your outfit,
Wow, you went for Starscream, the most whiny Transformer, and Megatron, the biggest failure out of all the Transformers, when you could have gone for, like, Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, or even Lockjaw. Come on.
Or the Dinobots.
The Dinobots. The Dinobots that were the best part of Transformers The Last Night, the fifth Michael Bay Transformers movie. Oh, wait, no, those were in the fourth one. Sorry. The Dragon Bot was in the fifth one.
Oh, wait, I think I found...
My bad.
I think I found images of John Barrowman wearing his Transformers pajamas.
Put them in the show notes.
Wait, no, those are Star Wars pajamas.
Wow, that's embarrassing. Conflating and confusing Transformers and Star Wars. Wow.
Well,
anyway, that's my fun fact for the week. X-Ray didn't really have many other, actually. It had no fun facts after this. It had a bunch of goofs, and I was like, I'm not here for the goofs. I'm here for the trivia, Amazon. Come on. I'm shamelessly appropriating your trivia for my podcast. Give me something to work with.
Yeah, freaking Amazon.
Anyway, the car gets stolen. The Torchwood Land Rover gets stolen, and they kind of run after it for a bit, and it drives away, and everyone rags on Owen because Wildcard Owen forgot to lock the door, and I guess left the keys in the ignition.
Yeah, that's the biggest moral to come out of this story, I think, because everything goes wrong for people who don't lock their car doors and leave the keys in the ignition. The woman at the beginning... the entire team right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So they decide to follow the car because Ianto's got a tracker. Hero Ianto coming through. He hung onto his GPS tracker for the Land Rover. So they follow it into town because it's parked somewhere in town and they're looking for it. And so they go into town. And they kind of split up, I think.
Yeah, they wind up at, like, an inn of some sort, and then they split up to investigate.
The clue that should immediately, like, clue them into the fact that something is way the heck wrong here is the fact that there are just dead ducks hanging from the outside of the building. I don't know if you noticed this, because none of the characters draw attention to it. But if you do look kind of, it's not the focus of the shot, but it's there. They were like dead ducks just hanging from the outside of the inn.
Right. I noticed that. A couple things about that. One, like, this episode really reminded me, at least the first half, really reminded me of It Takes You Away. And if I remember correctly, that was actually there was a similar thing in It Takes You Away where I think it was Ryan who walks into like the little shed and finds, I forget what it was, like dead rabbits or something hanging.
Yeah.
Something like that. And that was, they called attention to that in that episode, but yeah, it's kind of same deal here, except they don't call attention to it. But the other thing, like, I don't know if that would immediately set off an alarm because, you know, maybe whoever owns this inn or whoever runs this inn or whatever just, you know, slaughters their own livestock and such.
They're just like, heck yeah, love me some ducks. Then I'm going to hang them from the outside.
I remember watching this video years ago of this woman who was talking about how, like, economic hardships, like, hit her really hard, and now she's just, like, a rabbit farmer. And in the video, she's holding and petting a rabbit, and then midway through, she, like, just says, oh, excuse me, and, like, bends down, pins down the rabbit, pulls out, like, a little mini axe or something, and just starts hacking the rabbit's head off.
What? What? Wow.
Yep.
That reminds me of the movie Upgrade, which, like, the trailers had all made it seem like very PG-13 horror, you know? And everyone went into it like, all right, you know, it's not going to be too gory, not going to be too violent. And then there's a moment, and when I was in the theater, like, it kind of felt like an oh shoot moment. Because there's a moment about 20 minutes into the movie where he goes to a dude, and then the titular Upgrade takes over and just rips his jaw off. And, like, that's the moment you kind of realize, like, oh, that's the kind of movie this is going to be. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. Like, literally, everyone was, like, frozen. They're like, oh, shoot. Just out of nowhere, too.
God.
Yeah.
When did that movie come out? I vaguely remember hearing about that movie.
2018, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been 2018.
The before times.
Before times. Kind of. I mean, there's definitely going to be like the pre-COVID and post-COVID world.
Yeah.
Now, because COVID's never really going to go away. We're never really going to be able to eradicate it now.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. That sucks. I'm just waiting for, like, the next one, you know, like COVID-20. Who's to say that's not going to be different and equally as big of a problem?
I did see a meme last night as I was going to bed that was like 45 people, 45 new people report cases of COVID-20 in, I don't remember what country, and the meme was like, the what?
Yeah, what if there's just a new one of these things each year? COVID-20,
sequel.
COVID-21. Yeah.
A payment for making 6 Sharknado movies.
Oh my God.
6 COVIDs.
Yeah, not the massive, like, crimes against humanity that have been committed since the dawn of time. No, it was for making Sharknado. That's why it's happening now.
Yeah, but what was it in the Bible? How many plagues did God send down? That's how many
7
COVID
or something?
I feel like it was the number 7 appears in the Bible a lot, so it's probably 7.
Yeah, for my very minimal Bible studies, the number 7 in, like, ancient Near Eastern culture was, like, was used kind of like how we just say, like, oh man, like, that took like 100 hours or something like that. Like, 7 was their number for, like, a lot.
Huh.
So that's why, like, that appears so much.
That makes sense. Honestly, I'm learning a lot more about the Bible now that I'm, like, having to dig into it for the podcast. So weird.
Yeah, so 40 was also another one of those like the 40 days and 40 nights thing apparently isn't like a literal thing. It's just like for a lot of days and a lot of nights they wander through the desert.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
40 did always seem like kind of an exaggeration.
Oh no, it was 40 days and 40 nights was the rains or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, so they're exploring the town. There's some nice barbecue sauce on the floor, and they're like,
Oh my God.
floor sauce. Yum.
It's blood.
It's floor sauce. Come on, man. Jack just leans down and scoops them up and takes the lick. It's like, yum. It looks like, okay, it looks like barbecue sauce. You have to admit, it looks like barbecue sauce.
It might just be like steak sauce or something, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we get no confirmation that it's not. So this is when this is kind of like that moment in Upgrade. You know, this is the like oh shoot moment where the story kind of kicks into high gear because there's a door, and so Jack and Gwen have split up from. So it's Jack, Gwen, and Owen, and then Ianto and Toshi, and Owen's kind of a little behind Jack and Gwen. Jack and Gwen are about to open this door, and as they kind of try the doorknob, Gwen just gets shot with a shotgun and goes flying backwards like a foot. And you're like, wait, what? Did they just shoot a pseudo main character just in the gut with a shotgun? You know, knowing nothing about this show, I genuinely was kind of like, especially since they killed Susie off in the first episode, I was genuinely like, does Gwen just die now? Was Gwen just like introduce us to the team and then they just kill her off?
Yeah, I kind of had that thought as well. It doesn't happen, but yeah.
Honestly, like, all credit to the show for, like, that being a possible thought, you know? Like, in Doctor Who, anytime a character seemed like they were going to die, and especially so in the Moffat era, like, I'm calling Moffat out for this, you were always just like, well, they're not going to die because, like, it's Doctor Who and they have, like, plot armor. And, like, even if it looks like they're going to die, they'll just find some nonsense way to bring him back.
Right.
Whereas in Torchwood has, like, clearly, at least in my mind, built up this potential that they might just kill off a main character and they would be gone.
Yeah, I think so as well. And that was definitely a possibility here.
Jack busts the door down and shows remarkable restraint and not just putting a bullet through this man because he's holding a shotgun.
I think they see that it's like a really scared kid, and, you know, obviously he was willing to shoot whoever came through that door, but they kind of see that he also might have some answers for them. And so what they do is we learn, I don't remember, maybe I just wasn't paying attention and didn't remember this from before, but I think we learn here that Owen was a doctor.
I think we've known before. I think it was mentioned, and that's part of the reason why he kind of maintains the little morgue area of the hub. But I don't think we've ever seen him practice being a doctor. Owen is kind of the last person you'd expect to be a doctor.
Yeah, he's like,
gonna be honest,
he'd be like House or something, and he even says that like in the episode, like, yeah, people hated dealing with them as part of my job as a doctor.
He doesn't really seem like he would have a good bedside manner.
Maybe that's why he joined Torchwood. Cause yeah, I don't know. But he's doing like a little makeshift operation on Gwen, getting the shotgun pellets out of her. And they do like a couple full-on shots of the wound, like no holds barred.
Yeah, it's like pretty graphic. I read that this was the first episode of anything in the Doctor Who universe to be rated 18 by I think the Irish rating, one of the Irish Film Classification Office rated this 18. Which, like, given the, like, no holds barred, like, image of skinned humans as well, like...
Yeah, definitely. This is probably the most violent thing in the Doctor Who universe. Like, I can't think of anything worse than this, violence-wise.
Yeah. That you see anyway. I mean, like, you can make a case that, like, the Master killing half the universe is pretty violent, but we never see that. It just kind of, like, the Master pushes a button, and then the Doctor goes, no, you just killed half the universe.
Right. So Jack is talking to the kid, and he's just scared of, just anyone. Well, he's kind of incoherently rambling, and he's like, we can't stay here. We're not going to make it out alive. We can't make a run for it. They're going to come for us. And at this point in the episode, you totally think it's something supernatural or aliens or just aliens. And especially with the cup, they kind of send it up a little bit too with, like, I think Jack says a couple times in the episode, like, there's no way human beings could have done something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He eats those words. But while this is all going on, Ianto and Toshi have been captured. By what they don't know, but they're being held in kind of a prison cell.
Right. It's not the most hygienic place, and they find out it's even less hygienic than they initially think when they open up a little fridge and find it stuffed with human body parts.
Yeah.
So that's how they discover what's actually going on here. They're being harvested as meat. A woman comes into the cell holding a gun, and I believe, actually, now that I think about it, she kind of just breaks down a wall. Jack Nicholson in The Shining style. And she's like, I'm not here to hurt you.
I think it's a door. I think the reason why it kind of seems like she kicks the door in is because when she opens it, immediately Ianto kind of shoves it back into her to try and knock her out.
Oh, huh. Yeah, I guess I was misremembering then. Yeah, but she claims that she's not there to hurt them and that she's a victim of, whatever's going on here as well. They need to get out.
Yep.
And considering they have no other options, and she has a gun, even though they're a bit suspicious, especially Toshi, they decide to follow her.
Yeah, so they get taken to kind of a kitchen area with human body parts all over the place, and this is when Toshi's like, shoot, she got us.
Right.
She was acting.
Another guy enters the scene, and he's like...
This is Evan.
Evan?
Yeah. Although on IMDb, they credited him as Ewan. With a W.
Yeah. Huh.
But I think his name is actually Evan, because everywhere else credits him as Evan. I don't quite remember if we hear his name in the episode, but I'm going to go with Evan, since more places use Evan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's honestly the most unsettling of all of them. He's like, yeah, you're going to die. We see the kid. They've captured him as well.
Yeah, so that's because Jack, Gwen, Owen, and the kid, whose name is Kieran, go to investigate the pub. And because they think it's kind of like a safe place to hold up because they can barricade everything really easily, but they forget to check the basement. So Kieran gets dragged away, but not before Jack can shoot Martin, the one of the guys who's like kidnapping Kieran. So Martin's kind of lying there in pain. Owen and Gwen run after to try and get Kieran back while Jack stays behind with Martin. And here we get like the dark side of Jack coming back because Martin doesn't want to talk, and Jack goes, you know what? I've lived for a very long time. And when I fought in the wars, you know what I was in charge of? Torture. So I know exactly where to apply pressure to this wound to cause you unimaginable pain. And then he just starts pressing into the wound, and the guy's like, oh God, you're going to kill me. It hurts. And Jack's like, if you just tell me, what I want to know, like, you have the ability to stop this. You just got to tell me what I want to know, and I'll stop. And he pulls out his gun and places it, like, next to Martin's head, and he's like, you just got to tell me what I want to know. And it's like, Jack, wow, all right.
Yeah, I can't wait until season 2 when they supposedly dial down the adult things in the episodes, and just like how kid friendly is this going to turn, right? And like how
kid friendly can you make this? I mean, like, we keep finding out all this stuff about Jack, and the more we learn about Jack, the more like we learn that Jack is one of those not necessarily amoral, but he is definitely the closest to being amoral. Like, he'll do anything to save his friends and, to a lesser extent, the world. Like, right now, the reason why he's so anxious, I guess, to get this information out of Martin is because Toshi and Ianto are captured. Owen and Gwen are probably on the verge of being captured, and Jack's the only one left.
Yeah, he's kind of an anti-hero, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be weird when this supposedly takes a more kid-friendly turn, just knowing that, like, I mean that kind of makes sense, like, from a TV production standpoint, but, like, in universe, in the world of Torchwood, like, all this adult stuff went down, and then it's not like, and then it stops going down. Supposedly. Obviously, we're not there yet, but
maybe they'll play it off as them just killing off, like, some alien being that was badly influencing humans.
Maybe. Who knows?
So, Gwen and Owen... so Toshi is able to make an escape because Ianto kind of distracts Evan and Helen.
He headbutts Evan, and I think that gives Toshi time to escape.
So she's running away. Owen and Gwen have run into, like, these cops who direct them towards the town meeting at the town hall, I guess. And in heading that direction, they run into Toshi, who is being chased by Evan. And they kind of tackle Evan. Owen's got Evan at gunpoint. Gwen's like, arrest him. The police officer's like, haha, no, and pulls his own gun and points it at Owen. And then Gwen pulls her gun and points it at the cop. And we got ourselves a good old standoff.
Yeah, and then the theme from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly starts playing. No.
And then it just goes full Sergio Leone. The next 8 minutes in real time are just them staring at each other.
Yeah. Close-up shots of their eyes.
I mean, Gwen could easily just, like, pull the trigger and just kill this cop right now,
Yeah.
And it would be fine. I mean, it wouldn't be fine. She'd probably be traumatized, given, like, how she reacted when she accidentally killed, what's his name? Gareth Thomas's character.
Right.
But how she also showed no remorse when she gunned down Lisa. So, I mean...
Yeah, she is not willing to kill again. As, inconsistent as that might seem, although I don't think it is. I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that the trauma she would have experienced from killing this man may have been less than the trauma of her immediately finding out now, because she gets taken to the town hall, finding out that they are cannibals, because she didn't know before this point. And that seems to really mess her up.
Honestly, I didn't know before this point. I was still counting on them being aliens.
Yeah, me too. And they even, like... They do kind of, again, like you said, send it up when Ianto and Toshi see Evan and Helen for the first time, and they go, they look just like us. And they go, of course we would. What else would we look like? And at the time, you think they're just talking about, like, they're aliens and they look exactly like humans, but then later on, it's actually, like, it's something a lot more sinister than that. They are humans. And, yeah, exactly. Why would they look any different?
Yeah, and in that way, this episode kind of plays with your expectations with Doctor Who. Because every time Doctor Who has ever done something like this, and even, in the, 5 episodes prior to this, Torchwood has done something like this, it's always just been aliens causing the problem.
Yep.
This might be... I guess this is the first time since Black Orchid that, like, there's been a Doctor Who / Doctor Who adjacent episode where nothing supernatural has happened.
Yeah, you just made exactly the same observation that the TARDIS wiki did, which is, it is considered the least fantastical televised episode in the Doctor Who universe since the sci-fi light adventure Black Orchid.
Yeah. Anyway, they have them all captured, and it looks like they're all going to die. I even wrote in my notes, like, how the hell are they going to make it out of this?
Jack, the absolute hero, comes crashing through the wall in a tractor and just pulls out the shotgun that Kieran had and just starts mowing down the village people. Not the band.
God, yeah. I thought... You just cut to an unrelated, like, scene. He totally bailed. His mission all along was to assassinate the village people.
That's what Martin revealed to him off screen. Martin was like, the village people are in control of everything.
Oh my god.
No, he's gunning down the people who are going to eat Owen and Gwen and Toshi and Ianto.
And that's how they solve all of this. They call in the cops and are then recaptured because this was a nationwide conspiracy. No. They call in the cops and these people are taken in, but Gwen decides that she wants to question Evan before that can happen.
Jack does, to his credit, make an effort not to kill any of the people, which I think may be kind of like a clue into Gwen's influence on him. Even when a guy is at the very end of his kind of shootout, a guy's reaching for a gun and Jack goes, "Oh, really?" And he could just like shoot the guy, but what he does is he instead shoots the gun away so that the guy can't reach it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is kind of an element of like Jack is perhaps not being as cavalier as he might have been before Gwen joined the team and introduced him to the human aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so she's trying to find out why they would do it. She wants to understand. And in the most uncomfortable moment of the whole episode, at the very end, he leans over and he whispers in Gwen's ear that he did it because it made him happy.
Right. And he explains that this is a tradition. Every 10 years in this village, they, I guess, capture unsuspecting people and butcher them and eat them.
Yeah. Interesting tradition. They call it the harvest.
Yeah.
The harvest of Cairo.
So I guess, now that I think about it, I guess Kieran wasn't a member of this village. I guess for some reason I was thinking that he was, and was just not in on it or something.
No, I think he was a guest, because he was at the inn. So... Because they do mention that it's they take, visitors because they're not really, like, who the hell comes to this random middle of nowhere town? They're not going to be missed. Except they are, because, like, so many people disappeared that Torchwood got wind of it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is, like, a very unsettling moment when he leans in close and he was like, yeah, because it made me happy.
And she's, like, shocked and stares at the camera in awe. And not awe. Well, awe. Awe has a very, like, good connotation, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean that.
Yeah, she's basically just completely mentally obliterated. Everything she thought she knew to be, like, true is not.
Again, this makes me think... This has got to be one of my favorite lines from Star Wars when Luke goes, "This isn't going to go the way you think." just such a great line because it's like so meta, but also applies to so many things. It's great.
Was that in
I think it was in Last
Last
Jedi.
Jedi? Yeah. Why are you saying that? Because like the very next shot is Gwen having an affair with Owen.
No, the very next shot is her with Reese
right,
with a
right,
voiceover, and she's like, I had a good life before this. I was on track for like desk sergeant. Reese is gonna be a good dad. We could have a kid. And you think she's talking to like Jack, but then the biggest surprise is cut to like a hotel room. This like in like a skyscraper, I guess, because you could see, I guess, all of Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera kind of pans around, and Gwen's there. And then Owen comes up behind her, starts copping a feel, and I'm like, Gwen, no! Gwen! Jack's supposed to be the morally gray anti-hero, not you. No!
Yeah, this is such a weird turn of events. There's like zero chemistry too between Gwen and Owen.
No, but don't you remember, as Owen says, the two of them together, they would be wild, and they wouldn't sleep all night, and that scares her.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I guess she's just living I guess there's a problem with living a nice, comfortable life with your significant other and having sex once a night and then having a nice, good, restful sleep and waking up in the morning and having a nice breakfast together. I guess there's something wrong with that, Owen.
Exactly. Now you're getting it.
Yeah, now you're thinking like Owen.
Every day I feel myself drifting closer to Owen's psyche now.
Every day we stray further from God and closer to Owen. Which somehow makes Owen sound like the Antichrist.
Well, hey, Gwen at least thought he had devilish good looks.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's the end of the episode.
Yeah, and since we're talking about it, why not just jump right into the sins that Gwen commits this episode? Because lust is definitely among them.
Oh, yeah. Lust, number one.
I think she's shown lust in basically every episode so far. All but one, I think.
Not Lost Weeks, but yes. Not Small Worlds, yeah. She didn't show lust. Not as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Not unless she's secretly like, while Owen is just standing there, she's like, "Ooh, yeah, look at that."
Oh my god, well, we had no indication of that on screen. I also had her as showing wrath. She seemed to get a little angry when she was interrogating Evan.
Also, she when Jack was like, "Oh, let's leave," she got really angry at Jack. She's like, "No, I want to interrogate. I want to understand."
True. Another mark against her. Wow, Gwen. Wow.
Oh, jeez. I want to throw this disclaimer in here while I'm thinking about it, but I want to be clear that we're doing this segment in good fun, and that the point isn't to make fun of or otherwise belittle Christianity or Christianity-adjacent religions that believe in the Bible. That's not the point of this segment, and I just want to apologize if at any point I've come off as doing that.
Yeah. I feel like, maybe it's also appropriate to say that, this is, we're doing this too, as a joke. We're not actually trying to criticize these characters for committing these sins, or this one character for committing these sins.
Yeah. I think part of where this segment grew out of is that it actually, since Torchwood sold itself as a more adult show, this presented itself as a convenient kind of framework to analyze some of the quote adult themes unquote in the show, since the show seems to be going down the path that kind of violating all of these sins, or committing all these sins, so to speak, is like the quickest way to be more adult. And so it presents a framework that we do use.
Yeah, and just having done the cursory research last week, there really isn't enough, Christian readings of Torchwood, so we need to fill that gap, we need to fill that niche, and I think we're doing that, especially since most of the Christian articles that I found about Torchwood were just scathing, not necessarily long, but condemnations of Jack's bisexuality. That's pretty much all they were. So really unoriginal, very, very conservative Christian, very, not anything too out there, not anything too interesting even. So, yeah. What are you doing, Christian Torchwood discourse?
I mean, we're not even doing like a full Christian reading of this. We're just using this, again, framework, because that's, what we're really doing. We're using this framework of these sins and undesirable courses of action presented to us in the Bible to like critique Gwen and occasionally other characters. I just wanted to be clear that this is not, the point of this is not to belittle or make fun of these sins or these actions or the people who believe in the Bible and a higher power. Like, I just want to be clear that that's not what we're trying to do here. And if it ever comes off like that, then I apologize. Just want to get that out there because it is a very thin line to walk, and potentially a line that could be crossed without us even realizing it. So, with that out of the way, I think that's all of the sins I had Gwen committing this week. Still waiting for her to commit sloth.
Maybe she kind of did commit sloth in this episode, because I was paying close attention to her trigger finger, and half the shots you can very clearly see that she's not putting her finger on the trigger of the gun, which is what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to touch the trigger until you know for sure you're ready to shoot. So she's doing a good job there. But then I noticed, maybe this was just my imagination, but I'm pretty sure in a few shots she had her finger on the trigger and was pointing it around at people. So maybe she kind of slipped and got a little lazy there.
You're saying she got lazy in her gun safety. I could see that, and I'll kind of give it to you, but I'm waiting for like a really obvious, like, this is sloth.
Yeah, like, hey Gwen, the weevils have like broken out and are wreaking havoc in Torchwood HQ. Can you like come help us? Like, nah, I'm good.
We do also like kind of get a touch of that at the end where she's like, I don't know. She doesn't say, but she implies like, I don't know why I joined you, because I had a good life. I could have, I wanted to apply for like desk sergeant, which as far as I know is like a desk job. You wouldn't have to go out into the field arresting people or confronting people, not even arresting them, just confronting them. So maybe there's a little bit of that desire in that like kind of speech there. Maybe.
Yeah, again, I agree. I would wait for something a little more explicit. Yeah, so, as for how distraught Jack should be, well, extremely.
Yeah, again, this is another week, 2 in a row, where this just really kind of hammers at Jack's past trauma that he's been living through. With the like fear of him losing his teammates, and not even to anything alien, just to these like not normal, but humans, really.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that he has to go full torture mode on Martin. Like, yikes.
Yeah, and again, he doesn't really display what you'd think he would, I guess, or maybe not what you think he would, because he hasn't really shown a record of doing that, but like what any other person in his place would. he kind of just takes it all in stride.
Yeah, he seems to push his trauma, for lack of a better term. He kind of pushes it to the bottom and doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't really confront it, and then it seems to kind of continuously come out in these moments when he gets some sort of reminder or some sort of trigger that brings that memory back up, you know? So he's not necessarily really confronting it in a very healthy way.
Yeah.
But, when you're immortal, is there really like a therapist who can understand or even comprehend like anything that you're talking about? Imagine going to a therapist and be like, I'm literally immortal. I have like 100 years of PTSD that I need to work through. The therapist just being like, oh.
They'd probably just subscribe you some like, I don't know, schizophrenia medication or something. Or prescribe you, not subscribe you. What the hell am I talking about?
Subscribe you to a subscription of medication. Yeah. I mean, we haven't even like mentioned the fact that he's probably still like, we're growing ever closer to an episode called They Keep Killing Susie, and we have not even mentioned the fact that like he's got to be at least somewhat affected by the fact that someone he brought onto the team, trusted with all of this fantastical knowledge, betrayed him and shot him in the head.
True, and he himself has not really, or I should say the show itself has not really done a dive into that. It was just a thing that happened.
I suspect it's going to come up in They Keep Killing Susie, which, I mean, I don't know like how much of Susie's going to be in that because she's dead. But if the title has any indication, like, she's going to be a plot point in some way in that episode.
Right.
Unless it's a completely different Susie.
I guess it could be, but like, it's probably not. It's probably
Surprise.
Not. We just decided to add another completely different character with the same exact name.
Now that's the way to do it. Quotes? I've got one quote.
Oh, wow.
It's Gwen when she's trying to understand why Evan would do this, and she says, I've seen things you would never believe, and this is the only thing I can't understand. Which kind of plays into the whole, like, everyone expected it to be aliens. The audience expected it to be aliens. Torchwood expected it to be aliens. And it wasn't. It was just humans, being humans, I guess.
Yeah, like even the aliens that she's encountered were more close to what she thought humans were than these people.
Yeah, it reminds me of that really annoying Twilight Zone ad for the reboot of Twilight Zone with this really amazing line of dialogue that goes, it's a twist, they're not the monsters, we are. And I'm like, any episode that includes that line of dialogue cannot be that good.
Is that the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
Was that any good?
Have not watched it. That was just in the damn trailer that keeps showing on CBS All Access that I only got because I wanted to watch Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, I remember that was people were kind of making a big deal about the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone before it came out, and then like after it came out, it was just radio silence, like nobody really cared.
Yeah, it was the second season that came out recently, and like no one, like you said, cares. I think it got heavily mixed reviews. Like heavily mixed.
Yeah. And I mean,
and part of that might be because it is an anthology series. So every episode is completely unique from the previous one. We'll probably end up watching like the original Twilight Zone for Inevitable at some point.
Probably, or at least a few seasons of it. Because doing all of it would take...
science fiction.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about, so we can go into Britain's 10 actors.
Yeah, and I again neglected to look up any.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Good job.
I'm aspiring to new heights here. So, yeah.
So Owen Teale plays Evan, or Ewan according to IMDb.
Well, maybe it's a W pronounced with as a V. This might be what it is.
Maybe. I guess we could go to the actual episode and watch the credits and see what he's credited as. I suspect it's going to be Evan.
Yeah, there's some like accents in the UK that are mostly found in the countryside that are actually more like closely intelligible with like European continental Germanic languages than they are with English. But they are just accents of English.
Yeah.
So, could be.
Could be. Anyway, he's been in Game of Thrones, that Tolkien biopic that came out like 2 years ago. Or a year, I don't know. I think it was 2018. Midsummer Murders, and he played Maldak in Vengeance on Varos.
What?
Yeah. So then we have Maxine Evans, who plays Helen Sherman. She was in Doctors, EastEnders, Poirot, The Bill. It's kind of all I recognized. Callum Callahan as Kieran, the last one I looked up.
Gooin McGooin.
McGowan. He's been in Black Mirror, Casualty, and The Bill, and some other stuff, but I didn't really recognize any of it, so I didn't write it down.
Yeah, cool. They seem to have pretty successful careers there, if not overly successful.
Yeah, moderately successful.
Yeah, well, I mean that's all I got, obviously.
Yeah, that's all I got. But we've got an email and a couple comments from Paul Morris that I want to read and respond to. They're all pretty short, so it shouldn't take too long. So from Garrison Roller, hey Dylan and Keon, just started your episodes about Heaven Sent. About Heaven Sent. My favorite episode ever, and Hellbent, and am halfway through. Love the show so far. I'm interested to know what y'all thought of The Timeless Children. Personally, I think The Massacre is better. Since my last email, I've begun rewatching Doctor Who, and I'm currently on The Abominable Snowman. I really like y'all's idea for the Doctor regenerating and ending up in a hospital where everyone's lost their memory, including him/herself. I also like y'all's idea for the Master being an antagonist to the Doctor, but it's never explicitly revealed that he/she is the Master. My question is, if y'all could choose who the next Doctor will be, who would it be? Besides The Rock, of course. Thanks, Garrison Roller.
Well, that's a hard one.
That's a tough one. I'm going to think about it for a second. Interesting that you mentioned the idea of the Doctor regenerating and ending up in a hospital where she is amnesiac. Because there's a couple people who have reached out and said recently, actually, that they like that idea. And in fact, I've seen similar ideas suddenly popping up on Reddit. And I just want to say, we did it first, okay? We did it first.
Yeah, like how we did the death count first, and then like some other guy made it his own version of the Doctor Who death count and did it way better than us, and it got way bigger than ours.
Literally everyone is bigger than us in the Doctor Who fandom. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
I guess, yeah, you're right.
Well, on who should play the next Doctor, I'm going to be, I genuinely, there were so many good actors. There's so many good actors / actresses out there that I genuinely, I don't know if I could choose one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to think of like a joke, like funny one, like The Rock, and I can't.
I've said for a long time that Sholto Copley should play the Doctor because we've had doctors from Scotland and England and other parts of the UK.
No,
it's time to have
I think it was
one
just those two. I think it was literally just Scotland and England.
Well, it's time to have one from a former colony. Expand into, the former British Empire. You know what? We should have an Australian doctor. Margot Robbie should play the doctor. There you go. Margot Robbie should play the doctor. You heard it here first, folks.
Well, all right then. What if they like introduce a new piece of like lore that Time Lords can actually regenerate into like two people and like split their bodies, and we got like a season where there were two doctors.
That's so weird because I was legitimately about to propose an almost identical idea right now.
God.
I was going to say, what if we had a season that had like two doctors traveling together? They could do it like, it wouldn't even necessarily need to be a new introduction to like the lore. It could be like the master, the Doctor's final story. The previous incarnation's final story has the Doctor facing off against the Master, or the Rani even, because it would be science-based, and she/he, whoever is playing the Rani at the time, could have this device, some sort of mind-swapping device, kind of like Mind Warp, which is why the Doctor gets involved, because the Mind Warp technology is too dangerous to be left in the world. And like in the process of stopping them, they regenerate, and because of like interactions with the device, their consciousness gets split into two kind of bodies, and you could have like two doctors traveling together the whole season, trying to like re-merge back into a single entity, and they could have like two different aspects of the Doctor's character. Wow, that'd be really interesting. BBC, call us. Honestly, we've had some, like, I don't want to toot our own horn for a second here, but we've had so many like good ideas for the show.
We've had plenty of, we've had like more bad ones than good ones.
Yeah, okay. We've had more bad ones than good ones. We have had more bad than good. Oh man, you could even merge those two ideas where like you have the two doctors traveling together, and then at the end of their run, like when they regenerate, it could go into the like amnesiac hospital where you don't know the result because you don't know if it worked. You don't know if now there are two doctors, or if there's one doctor, or if there's four doctors, or if everyone's the Doctor. Wow. Oh my god.
Personally, I don't think that the BBC and whoever's running the show would ever do something like that. I think it's too risky. It would alienate so many people.
But that's why when you want to kill the show, if the BBC is out there, like, we want to kill the show like they did when JNT was like barely hanging on, and they just want it to alienate fans so that they can look at the for some reason look at the low viewership numbers and be like, see, this is why we should cancel Doctor Who. If that's what they're trying to do, they should call us so we can do all these crazy out there ideas. And the real fans, that's very gatekeepy, but the fans will understand. They'll appreciate. I
know this ending is kind of dragging on a bit, but recently, I've actually been thinking about this. Like, there are a lot of people, especially on Twitter, who look at the low ratings or the lower ratings of the Chibnall/Whittaker era of Doctor Who and kind of use that to denounce the show or whatever, or claim that, like, claim a lot of things, but often claim that, like, the Doctor shouldn't be a woman, right? Is that it's like, it's alienating people are watching less, and the show is eventually going to be canceled. So we need, to have the Doctor be a man again is the kind of line of thinking that I've seen, at least.
Yeah.
But, oh man, where was I going with that? Why did I bring that up? Shoot, totally forgot. Oh, right, I remember. So, honestly, like, for me at least, I would rather have a show that, like, does interesting things, even if they're a little more out there, rather than play it safe for high viewership numbers, even if that ultimately results in, like, it getting canceled in a couple years.
Yeah, I mean, I had this discussion with a friend in regards to, like, when shows get canceled, whether or not, if they get a new season, what they should do with that, like, final season. And I'm like very much on the side that the creators should really do what they want with television programs without really like looking at viewership numbers. Like pretty much the same thing. Like, you know, Chibnall wanted to make the Doctor a woman, and he wanted to do all these grand, overarching, timeless children plot lines, and I think he should do that. Like, if he wants to do it, I think he should. You know? And basically what I'm saying is I agree. Also, like, that argument, just like the like, oh, viewership numbers are down, so the Doctor shouldn't be a woman, is like, okay.
It's like
I didn't see you making the same argument like when Peter Capaldi was the Doctor, and you were like, oh my god, Peter Capaldi's fantastic because he's exactly like the classic Doctors and he's great, but the viewership numbers, like literally the instant Peter Capaldi became the Doctor, like were destroyed. And I didn't see any of you people making that argument then.
Right.
I'm just gonna call a spade like you're doing it because Jodie's not a man.
Yeah.
Like, call a spade a spade. Although fair play to the people who did make that argument and then are still making that argument. Like, they were like, well, the Doctor shouldn't be all, look at the viewership numbers. And now they're like, well, now the Doctor, like, shouldn't be a young woman. I don't know. I'm mainly calling out the people who, like, didn't make that argument when Peter Capaldi was the Doctor. And they were like, yeah, this is great because he's returned to form. But the viewership numbers are way down. And then, like, as soon as the Doctor became a woman, they started caring about viewership numbers, I guess, is the thing.
Yeah. Also, the viewership spiked for a while. Just want to put that out there.
Oh, yeah, it definitely, like, spiked way, way the heck back up, like, Woman Who Fell to Earth. Like, Woman Who Fell to Earth was, like, the second or third most watched season premiere in, like, the reboot era.
Yeah, I think it fell off a cliff after that, but hey, you know. Again, I'm not in this for viewership or popularity. I'm just in for a good time.
I don't have a horse in the race. I'm just here to enjoy television and to talk about, and to make funny jokes every week with my bud. So that's what I'm in for.
To rail into these fictional characters for committing sins.
All right, so we've got just a couple interesting comments from Paul Morris I want to read. Just they're pretty short, so we'll go through them pretty quickly. The first one on Everything Changes. Quote, we were never really in the eyes and ears of the companions in the classic show, unquote, except the opening episode in Unearthly Child where we don't see the Doctor until halfway through. That's a good point, Paul. You got us on that one. I don't think that the drugging of Gwen was intended to be seen in anything other than a negative light, bringing to the forefront the moral ambiguity of Torchwood as an operation and Captain Jack as an individual. Cardiff Bay isn't really a river, although the River Taff does flow into it. It was formerly a tidal inlet, but is now fresh water, as there is a barrage across the seaward entrance. Cardiff is a coastal city, and the Bay Area was essentially the Docklands area. Also on Everything Changes, hurrah for fun fact. As a former member of the RAF, I have nitpicked, about this point for the last 15 years. Although Jack was a U.S. volunteer, he would still have had a regular RAF rank, and, as you say, the rank markings are those of a group captain, which is equivalent to a full colonel in Army terms. A group captain would never be referred to or refer to himself as captain, not only because it was simply incorrect, but also because it risks confusion with the naval rank, which is the same seniority, or Army rank, which is much junior. Interesting background on the U.S. volunteers and the RAF. Technically, the volunteers were guilty of illegal acts in joining the armed forces of a foreign country and would have been liable to prosecution and imprisonment on their return to the U.S. It was only later, after the U.S. entered the war, that the law was amended to remove this legal threat from those who survived the service. The volunteers, all of whom were qualified pilots but without combat experience, mainly traveled to the UK via Canada and were formed into discrete squadrons, the Eagle Squadrons, with a distinctive shoulder flash, notably absent from Jack's uniform. When the US declared war on Germany, the pilots of the Eagle Squadrons were transferred to the USAAF, and after lengthy negotiations, allowed to retain their RAF ranks, or rather the USAAF equivalents. From the information I can find, no members of the Eagle Squadrons achieved the rank of group captain. And just two quick comments on day one. Don't forget the Sarah Jane adventures when it comes to filling the gap before the next series of Who. And interestingly, none of the reactors on YouTube that I had seen have made the connection between the hand and the events of Christmas Invasion, despite coming to Torchwood after watching Who. So there you go. Thanks for the background on the American volunteers to the RAF. I actually didn't know anything about that. I just knew that that there were Americans who flew for the RAF, so I didn't know any of that, and that they would have been liable to prosecution.
Yeah.
That just kind of makes the volunteership kind of more impressive in a way.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to Sarah Jane Adventures, I did plot out how far Torchwood's going to take us, and if we go continuously, save for 1 week off from Torchwood, because we're planning to do Revolution of the Daleks roughly live that week.
As close to when it airs as we can.
Yeah, which is still unclear whether it'll be Christmas or New Year's, so that's kind of up in the air, at least for us in terms of scheduling. But save for that 1 week, Torchwood is only really going to take us through March at best. And the next season is by all indications not going to air until September at the earliest. So we're going to have, April, May, June, July, 5 months, half a year basically.
At least.
Still to fill.
Right.
It is likely we will do some substantial amount of Sarah Jane Adventures during that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to promise anything in case we change our mind, because that is still 6 to 8 months away on its own. So,
right.
But I'm very excited for Revolution of the Daleks to be the very first Trust Your Doctor episode released and covering an episode live, almost. It's going to be exciting. We'll be on the forefront of fan speculation for once.
We could do an MST3K take on it too, where we I don't know,
like a commentary track.
Yeah, get on a Skype call as we both watch it live.
We could. You know what? We'll figure it out in true Trust Your Doctor fashion when we get there.
The night before. So are we doing this thing? Yeah.
All 5 of our loyal fans will be like, hell yeah, do that.
Which will probably, if someone says do that to this idea, it'll probably be enough to make us do it. Considering
given
we
the fact
started
that
entire podcasts on suggestions from 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, Zenith was started on the suggestion of 5 people.
Yeah.
The shows we decide to do for Inevitable are on the suggestion of 1 person. They'll be like, hey, do this show. And we'll be like, all right.
Yeah. Shout out to Bill Kendrick. Would have never watched Star Cops without you.
And I loved it. Well, I am out of things to say, and so let's bring the episode to a close. If you would like to email us, as Garrison and Paul have reached out to us, thank you for reaching out again. Always good to hear from our listeners. You can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Torchwood, on Countrycide. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're watching Greeks Bearing Gifts. But until then, the end.